Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fiona Mitchell. I am the Head of Registry Services, and I am delighted to welcome you here this afternoon for this wonderful occasion of the conferring ceremony of the School of Medicine of RCSI, University of Medicine and Health Sciences. Before the formal proceedings begin, I have a couple of points that I would like to mention to you. Please be reminded that these proceedings are live streamed. I would ask that you turn your mobile phones to silent. During the ceremony, candidates will be invited to recite the graduate declaration and the licentiates of RCSI and RCPI. The declarations are listed on page 10 and 11 of your conferring booklet. And you should read your declarations loud and clear and proud when directed by the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Once called, each candidate should proceed to the centre stage. Each candidate will receive a parchment from the Pro-Chancellor of NUI and the President of RCSI, the President of RCPI, and the Vice President of RCSI. And there's no requirement to shake hands when presented with your parchment. A photograph will then be taken during the parchment presentation. On disembarking the stage, candidates should move back to their place as directed by conference and event staff. Students receiving awards and the valedictorian should proceed to the empty seats at the front of the auditorium, and a team member will direct you. A group photograph will take place at the end of the event, and the graduates will be asked to remain for it. And once the photograph is taken, graduates can join their guests in the reception area. The reception area is marked on your conferring booklet. And I wish you all a very enjoyable evening. And please now be upstanding for the academic procession.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, graduates, you're all very welcome to the School of Medicine conferring ceremonies here this evening. This is such a very special occasion for us. It's our first in-person ceremony for medicine since the pandemic, and I'm truly delighted to welcome you, our graduating class of 2022, your families, friends, and all of our academic and professional colleagues joining us here in person and online on this very special day. Before declaring open the conferring ceremonies of RCSI, University of Medicine and Health Sciences, and the Royal College of Physicians in Ireland and the National University of Ireland, I'd like to first introduce the platform party. To the table to the front of the stage, on your right, is Professor Mary Horgan, President of the Royal College of Physicians in Ireland, and beside her, Professor Ronan O'Connell, President of RCSI and Pro-Chancellor of the National University of Ireland. Then to the back row from them, from your right, Dr. Patrick O'Leary, Registrar of the National University of Ireland, Professor Laura Vianney, Vice President of RCSI, Dr. Maura Briscoe, President of the Association of Medical and Dental Graduates of RCSI, Dr. Marion Brennan, Deputy Director of Graduate Entry Medicine at RCSI, Ms. Anya Gibbons, Director of Development and Alumni Relations, Ms. Fiona Mitchell, Head of Registry, Professor Arnold Hill, Head of the School of Medicine at RCSI, Professor Hannah McGee, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs of RCSI, and Dr. Patricia Scanlon, our candidate for Honorary Doctorate this afternoon. And my name is Cathal Kelly, Vice Chancellor CEO of RCSI University of Medicine Health Sciences. RCSI degrees are under Irish legislation, and they're also degrees of the National University of Ireland. I would now invite all the graduates to stand, and I call on the Registrar of the NUI to formally open the NUI conferring ceremony. If the graduates could stand.
Universitas Hiberniae Nationalis, pre honorables pro Vice Chancellare, totaque Universitas, he comitiae Universitae hode confacta, sunt ut he mulieres maxime exime, et he viri maxime eximi, ad gradus academicos admirantur. This is a meeting of the National University of Ireland for the purpose of conferring of degrees. The graduands will be presented by Professor Cathal Kelly, Vice Chancellor and Chief Executive RCSI, and the degrees will be confirmed by Professor Ronan O'Connell, President of RCSI and Pro Vice Chancellor of the National University of Ireland.
This is a meeting of RCSI University of Medicine and Health Sciences for the purpose of conferring degrees and licentiates. I will present the graduates as my role as Vice Chancellor CEO Registrar of RCSI, and the degrees will be conferred by Professor Ronan O'Connell, President of RCSI. I now also declare open the conferring ceremony for the award of degrees of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland and the award of letters testimonial of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. If I could ask our graduates to remain standing while I recite with me the declarations. So if you could recite with me the declarations on page 10 of your booklet. I, in your name, do hereby solemnly and sincerely declare and promise that I will observe and be obedient to the statutes, bylaws and ordinances of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. And I will, to the utmost of my power, endeavour to promote the reputation, honour and dignity of the said college. I now invite you to recite again with me the declaration of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland. I, in your name, do hereby solemnly and sincerely promise and affirm that I will observe the statutes, bylaws and ordinances of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland, and that I will, to the utmost of my power, endeavour to preserve the honour and reputation of the College. I now invite the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Professor Hannah McGee, to come forward to recite with you the Graduates' Declaration, and you'll find the declaration on page 11 of your conferring booklet.
I am so pleased to be here to celebrate you and your achievements on this special day. The RCSI Graduates' Declaration, which you will recite together this afternoon, is a commitment to the highest standards of professionalism and ethical practice in your careers as taught during your studies at RCSI. It gives me great pleasure to invite all graduates to recite together after me the following declaration. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity. The health of my patient will be my first concern. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. I will remember that there is art to my profession as well as science, and that warmth, empathy, and understanding may outweigh treatment alone. I will respect the confidential information that is entrusted in me even after a patient has died. I will not permit considerations of age, disease or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will not use my professional knowledge to violate human rights and civil liberties, even under threat. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those in whose steps I walk and gladly share such knowledge with those that follow. I will abide by the code of conduct of my profession, and I will promote high standards of practice, lifelong education, and research in the interests of human health. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Thank you.
For the award of honours degrees of Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, Bachelor of Obstetrics, I present you for conferring. Prae honorabilis cancellariae totaque universitas, presento vobis has meas filios et hos meas filios, quos omnosi cam moribus, quam doctrina habiles et aeneas qui admittor ad graduam baccalaureatus in medicina, in chirurgiae, in arte obstetrica, honoro corso confecto. Idaque tibi fide mea testor expondeo totaque academiae. I now invite the Pro-Chancellor of the National University of Ireland and President of RCSI to admit the graduates.
In my capacity as Pro-Chancellor of NUI, I admit the graduands. Ego authoritate mihi contessa, admitto vos ad gradum baccalaureatus in medicina, in chirurgia, in arta obstetricia, honor corso confecto. By virtue of my office as President, I admit you licentiates in surgery and obstetrics and graduates of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland.
I now invite the President of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland to admit the graduates?
By virtue of my office as President, I admit you licentiates in Medicine and Obstetrics of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland.
The graduates can be seated now, and I now invite Professor Arnold Hill, Head of the School of Medicine at RCSI, to come to the lectern to introduce the individual graduates for presentation of their degrees.
Good afternoon. I will now invite each graduate to come forward to receive your parchments. Athir Abdel Hafiz.
Minor adjustments. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Abdulaziz Abdul Hadi. Najla Abdullah. And in absentia is Monira Aboshiba. Ayat Abul.
Do you turn that way?
Samuel Adams. Rima Ahmed. Roya Ahmed. Ryan Ann. And in absentia is Muhammad Adil Akhtar. Fatima Al Ahmed. Muhammad Abdul Aziz Al Ajmi.
Many congratulations. Well done.
Abdullah Al Barani.
Many congratulations.
Amna Abdul Rahman Al Balushi.
Many congratulations.
Jihan Al Balushi. Marwa Al Balushi. Amjad Al Busaidi. Abdullah Al-Ghamdi, Razan Al-Hashim, Ithar Al-Ismaili, Al-Mahanad Al-Julandani, Dana Al-Mubarak, Mariam Al-Murad, Ragad Al-Nawe, Yaqub Al-Saidi, Mustafa Al-Sayed, Salman Al-Sayed,
Lots of support there.
Aisha Al-Shabibi, Ali Al-Suvi, Inam Al-Zajali, Fatima Al-Abandi, Ali Al-Abdullah, Hassan Al-Aiden, Abdul Karim Al-Anazi,
What did they know about you? Well done.
Ziad Al-Anazi,
Congratulations.
Abdullah Al-Awaid,
Congratulations. Well done.
Fatima Alaya,
Lots of support there. Congratulations. Well done.
Muqdad Aldar,
Congratulations. Well done.
Nasser Al-Dafiri,
Many congratulations.
Muhammad Alaid, Abdul Rahman Al-Anazi. Saad Al-Anazi. Hiba Al-Fadli.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
And in absentia is Ali Al-Fayyad. Abdul Wahab Al-Gate.
Many congratulations.
Maita Al-Gati.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Abdulaziz Al-Ghanem.
Many congratulations.
Salma Al-Habsi.
Well done. Congratulations. Well done.
Sundos Al-Habsi.
Many congratulations. Well done.
Bada Al-Hajraf.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Al-Azhar Zahir Isa Al-Hamimi.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Abdul Rahman Al-Harbi.
Well done. Congratulations.
Rawan Al-Hashimi.
Congratulations.
Yasser Al-Hassan.
Many congratulations.
Ali Al-Baishi.
Many congratulations. Well done.
Aliyah Ali.
Well done. Congratulations.
Zara Al-Ibrahim.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Hannah Al-Kars.
Congratulations. Well done.
Zudi Al-Khatib.
Many congratulations. Well done.
Yusuf Al-Khatib.
Yusuf, congratulations.
Lujain Al-Lankawi.
Again, congratulations.
Alia Al-Maimani.
Well done. Congratulations.
Zainab Al-Manasef.
Sana, congratulations. Well done.
Abdullah Al-Mansuri.
Abdullah, congratulations. Well done.
Talal Almas.
Congratulations.
Abdullah Al-Mesri.
Abdullah, the fan club is here. Yeah, congratulations.
Muhammad Almul Hailij.
Congratulations. Well done.
Muhammad Al-Lothmani.
Mohammed, congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Bibi Al-Sahaf.
Ruby, congratulations. Well done.
Wadaya Al-Salim.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Lamis Al-Shaikh.
The fan club. Congratulations.
Abdulaziz Al-Shamlan.
Congratulations. Well done.
Fatima Al-Shamari.
Fatima, congratulations.
Thamer Al-Sharif.
Are you going to sing for us? Congratulations.
Hassan Al-Shawaf.
Hassan, congratulations. There's a photograph down there. Okay.
Rahaf Al-Sheri.
Congratulations.
Moidi Al-Sharidad.
Many congratulations. Well done.
Abdul Karim Al-Shamlani.
Abdul Karim, many congratulations.
Rashid Al-Shuhomi.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Rima Al-Sufyani.
Rima, well done. Congratulations. Well done. The fan club is here.
Malak Al-Wahid.
Congratulations. Well done.
Farah Al-Yatama.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Danish Amanuddin.
Danish, many congratulations. Well done.
Amira Hannes Binti Amir.
Amira, congratulations. Well done.
Sarah Arja.
Oh, sorry, you brought the fan club. You need to come back for photograph.
Valerie Armstrong.
Well, Valerie, congratulations. Great day. Turn around for a photograph.
Ali Ashraf.
Ali, congratulations. Well done.
Abdul Rahman Aulad Thani.
Many congratulations.
Kayansola Babatunde.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Nisha Baig.
Nisha.
Simran Baines.
Simran, congratulations. Quick photo. Well done.
Julie Barrett.
Well, Julie, congratulations. Lots of fans.
Stevie Barry.
Stevie, wonderful. And congratulations on all your prizes. Well done. Well done.
Emily Beattie.
Emily, congratulations.
Hashim Bebahani.
Ashleen, many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sukmani Benipal.
Submani, congratulations.
Bizrat Gurma Burhanu.
Nusrat, many, many congratulations. Well done.
Monica Beshara.
Well done, Monica. Great, great day. Well done.
Ahmed Hasif bin Ab Razak.
Ahmed, many congratulations. Well done.
Abdel Mateen bin Abdul Latif Esha.
Many, many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Lillian bin Al Shaikh.
Lillian, many congratulations. Well done. You take a photograph. Well done.
Lyle Blackburn.
Many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Neve Blaine.
Neve, many congratulations.
Tishel Boudou.
Tushar, many congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Finton Bray.
Well done, Quinton. Congratulations.
Robert Brodigan.
Well done, Robert. Well done.
Karina Burke.
Congratulations, Karina. Great day. Well done.
Maria Castellino.
Congratulations, Maria. Well done. Well done.
Cameron Chatur.
Cameron, congratulations.
Thank you very
well
much.
done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Sayukti Chola.
Sayukti, congratulations. Lovely. Great day.
Shuya Chen.
Shreya, congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Rei Xing Cheng.
congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Andrew Chester.
Andrew, well done. Congratulations. And enjoy the day.
Beth Chiam.
Beth, congratulations. Well done. And enjoy the day.
Jackie Clifford.
Jackie, many congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Saoirse Condren.
Saoirse, many congratulations. And have a great day.
Karen Copperthwaite.
Karen, congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Julie Crowell.
Julie, many congratulations. Thank you very much. And have a great day.
Liam Cronin.
Liam, well done. Well done. Congratulations. And enjoy the day.
Seung May Twee.
Congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Rachel Cullen.
Rachel, many congratulations. And enjoy your day.
Emer Cummins.
Emer, congratulations. Well done. Well done. And have a great day.
Andrew Comiskey.
Well done, Andrew. Thank you. Congratulations. And have a great day.
Magdalena Dalecki.
Magdalena, congratulations. Well done. And enjoy the day.
Roisin Daly.
Roisin, congratulations. Well done.
Mohammed Dashti.
Mohammed, the fan club are here. Well done. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Ethan Delahunt.
Well done, Ethan. Congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Nikhil Dewan.
Nikhil, congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Jayoti Dawan.
Many congratulations, and thank you for so much you've done. Well done.
Cathal Donnelly.
Cathal, congratulations. Well done. Well done. And have a great day.
Joshua Ephros.
Hey, Joshua, congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Emmanuel Eguari.
Emmanuel, many congratulations. Delighted for you. Are Mom and Dad here? Okay. Enjoy the day.
Maryam Atisham.
Congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Ayan Farah.
Congratulations. Very well done. And have a great day.
Hannah Farmer.
Hannah, many congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Luke Farrell.
Luke, well done. Well done.
Omar Fayez.
Omar, congratulations. Well done. Well, have a great day.
Cathal O'Tilla.
Congratulations.
Victor Floria.
Victor, many congratulations. Well done. Well done. And enjoy the day.
Evelyn Flynn.
Evelyn, congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Emma Ford.
Emma, many congratulations.
Brian Fox.
Well done, Brian. Many congratulations.
Himani Garg.
Many congratulations. Well done. And enjoy the day.
Christine Lou Garagtano.
Christine, how do you do? Well done. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Lauren Gaynor.
Lauren, congratulations. Well done. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Katerina Green.
Christine, many congratulations. And have a great day.
Karam Dev Gruel.
Aaron, congratulations. Well done. And enjoy the day. Thank you.
Amin Granfula.
Amin, well done. Congratulations.
Karam Haddadine.
Aaron, congratulations. Well done.
Sebastian Hadid.
Oh, you brought the fan club, Sebastian. Well done. Congratulations.
Mohammed Hammershah.
Mohammed, many congratulations. Well done.
Hashim Hashim.
Shane, congratulations. And enjoy your day.
Harveen Hire.
Harvey, you brought the fan club. Congratulations.
Sochi Huang.
Sochi.
Alison Hunt.
Congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Yoriam Summer Her.
Congratulations, you brought the fan club with you. Enjoy your day.
Salman Hussein.
Salman, congratulations. Well done. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Isra Hussein.
Isra, many congratulations. You just want to take a photo. Well done. Enjoy your day.
Fergus Ismail.
congratulations. Have a great day.
Hebatala Ismail.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Thanks so much.
Kauthar bin Ismail.
Thanks so much.
Many congratulations. Well done.
Laurie Israelian.
Laura, congratulations. Well done.
Axel Evander.
Absolutely well done. Well done. Enjoy your day.
Tara Jameson.
Sarah, many congratulations. Well done. Well done. And have a great day.
Fraser Yang Milligan.
Fraser, congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Hamna Javed.
Hamna, congratulations. Well done.
Philip Johnson.
Philip, many congratulations. Well done. Well done. And have a great day.
Avery Chia Joy Lee.
Avery, congratulations. Well done. Well done. And have a great day.
Thank you too.
David Joyce.
David, good to see you again. Congratulations.
Rachel Joyce.
Rachel, many congratulations. Well done. Have a great day.
Madison Kalin.
Madison, many congratulations. Well done. Well done. And enjoy the day.
Muhammad Ali Kanawati.
Well done.
John Karp.
John, many congratulations. Well done. We need to take a photo. Enjoy your day.
Jifar Khalid Thabit.
Well done.
Emer Rose Keeley.
Many, many congratulations. And enjoy your day.
Jack Carney.
Well done, Jack. Well done. Congratulations. And enjoy your day.
Danielle Kelly.
Daniel, well done. Congratulations. And enjoy your day.
Sarah Kelly.
Sarah, congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Therese Kelly.
Therese, many congratulations. Well done. And have a great day.
Owen Kenny.
Well done, Owen. Congratulations. And enjoy the day.
Nur Sama Keshk.
You brought the fan club. Yeah. Congratulations.
Mohammed Bahash.
Mohammed, many congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Anum Khalid.
Alan, congratulations.
Aidan Khan.
Aidan, welcome. Congratulations. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Sandus Khan.
Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Wui Kun Kaw.
Many congratulations. Well done. And enjoy your day.
Mona Koshnu.
Many congratulations. Well done. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Emily Kindle.
Emily, congratulations. Well done.
Tori Cornelson.
Congratulations. Well done.
Liana Kukadi.
Well done. Congratulations. Well done. And enjoy the rest of the day.
Susanna Kusi.
Susanna, you win the prize for the most colourful. Congratulations.
Erica Lai. Naiha Luxmanan. Yik Ming Lau. Leon LeBlanc. Harriet Leahy. Alexander Levstick. John Singh Lim. Shiwen Ling. Lu E. Ling. Adam Lynch. Therese Lynn. William McHale. Maj Maddy. Maria Mahfouz. Oisin Mahan. Amar Manra. Uzar Malik. Kuvira Manamperi, Sonia Manocha, Callista Marshall, Liam Matthews, Danielle McCulloch, Kate Mackerleen, Catherine McGarry, Nika Mackenzie, Quiva McNamara, Winston Mew, Millie Mohan, Spencer Mock, Nasser Monzer, Christina Vasiliki Morrissey, Augustin Umsalati, Varan Mudaluru, Patrick Mullen, Lisa Mulvey, Vrinda Munjal, Grace Murray, John Murray, Carl Murray, Connor Myers, Ramsha Nabil, Viknesh Warren Raj, Urvashi Narayan, Anna Nieder, Mary Nerdrum, Maura Nikalig, Cathal O'Flynn, Abigail O'Brien, Ross O'Doherty, Kaylee Ogilvie Turner, Aisling O'Hara, Elizabeth O'Hare, Christine O'Keefe, Porrick O'Reilly, Sive O'Sullivan, Rachel O'Toole, Gitmi Palahepitia Gamji, Emily Pantelli, Emma Parker, Ananya Pentaparty, Audrey Potts, Siad Kadade, Ryan Queck, Bilal Kadi, Adam Quinn, Hani Orkayat, Rahul Ramtahul, Cleena Redmond, Thomas Reid, Elena Roman, Shanna Routledge, Siobhan Ryan, Moody Sadan, Bahar Salehi, Chriselle Samaru, Haimabadi Saminaden, Raju Sapkoka Kota, Karishma Sarup, in absentia is Mohammed Saud. Trish Anna Simungal. Swathika Senbil Kumar. Campbell Shaw. Adrienne Scheidau. Daniel Sherlock. Angie Cersei. Anya Smith. Johan Dupreez Smith. Porrick Stafford. Marita Staunton. Arthi Subramanian. Thomas Suti. Nur Mustafa Al Saeed. John Taff. Riho Taguchi. Manvir Tonk. Hongbin Teng. Gordon Tracy. Ruby Ritika Tripathi. Carlton Choi. Shifa Turkestani. Mary Toomey. Leah Tyndall. Oluwaru Timmy Vaughan Ogunlusi. Turita Vidam. Michael Vered. Aaron Walton Ball. Chloe Warehall. Kristen Waterman. Catherine Wiesen Danner. Robin Wilson. Renee Wu. William Wood. Christopher Woodard. Adrian Woon. Cara Rin. Brina Wiley. Caitlin Singh. Tessa Singh Teo. Mavis Yi Lu. Bing Kai Justin Young. Sing Hyun Yoon. And the last graduate in person today is Sorab Zand. Thank you. Now, the following candidates will be conferring in absentia today, and if you're watching via live stream, we wish you congratulations on your achievement. Abdul Rahman Al-Harbi, Salah Al-Salhat, Austin I. Young, Muhammad Azhar, Ragad Azim, Sarah Colbert Kipe, Michelle Gallines, Najma Hassan, Jessica Iyer, Albert Kirkenar, Brian Lee, Ruth Little, Kathy Liu, Christine Matthew, Andrew Matty, Evgenia Mustafaeva, Nadiha Noor Chelsea, Candice Palmer, Carol Rizkala, Ahmed Saud, Ashka Shah, Catherine Taberner, and Ziyang Wen. That concludes the conferment of degrees and licentiates. Congratulations to all our new graduates.
Thank you very much, Professor Hill. We now reach the conferring of the NUI degree of Doctor of Medicine, DMed, on published work. Higher doctorate degrees on published work awarded by the National University of Ireland are the highest qualifications awarded by the university and signify scholarship of international distinction. They are awarded to scholars who have, over a sustained period, published a substantial body of groundbreaking and influential work in a field of specialization and who have achieved outstanding distinction internationally in that field. It's a great pleasure to honour the outstanding academic achievements of two recipients of the DMed Award today. They are Professor Peter Conlon, RCSI Professor Alumnus and Lead Clinical Nephrologist and Transplant Physician at Beaumont Hospital, and Mr. Brendan Moran, RCSI Fellow, Consultant Surgeon at the Peritoneal Malignancy Unit in Basingstoke in the United Kingdom. I now invite Professor Peter Conlon and Mr. Brendan Moran to please stand for the conferring. Pre honorabilis cancellariae totaque universitas, presento vobis has meus filios, quos sib tamoribus quam doctrina habiles et honeus esse quae admittor ad graduam doctoralis in medicina. I now invite the Pro-Chancellor of the National University of Ireland to admit the graduates.
Ego autoritate mihi contessa, admitto vos ad gradum doctoratus in medicina.
It now gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Peter Conlon to come forward to receive his parchment. Professor Conlon is conferred Professor Conlon is conferred with a Doctor of Medicine degree on his published work for his research on making major contributions in advancing nephrology, focused around kidney transplantation and the genetics of kidney disease. It gives me great pleasure to invite Mr. Brendan Moran to come forward to receive his parchment. Mr. Moran is conferred with a Doctor of Medicine degree on his published work which focuses on peritoneal malignancy, including its treatment by cytoreductive surgery and hyperthermic intraperitoneal chemotherapy. Congratulations to all our new graduates. At this point, we now proceed to the conferring of the award of Honorary Doctorate of RCSI University of Medicine and Health Sciences. Today we confer the award of Honorary Doctorate on Dr. Trish Scanlan, Director of the TLM Pediatric Oncology Program in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, or as they pronounce locally, Tanzania. She's also Interim Director of Global Health at Children's Health Ireland. I'm delighted to invite the 2022 Honorary Doctorate recipient, Dr. Trish Scanlan, to take her place on stage for the commencement of the Honorary Doctorate Award. Oh, let me tell you, you haven't heard anything yet. RCSI established an annual Honorary Doctorate Award in 2011 to recognise excellence and to provide an inspiration to you, our graduates, on your graduation day. The awardees are exceptional people who've made a difference to the world through education, research, or service. We as RCSI staff believe that you, our graduates today, will also make a difference for good in the world, and we want, through hearing their stories and their words, to inspire and to challenge you on this special day to make a difference. The doctorate will be conferred by the President of RCSI, Professor Ronan O'Connell, but it gives me now great pleasure to invite the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Academic Affairs at RCSI, Professor Hannah McGee, to formally introduce the Honorary Doctorate awardee, Dr Patricia Trish Scanlan.
President, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our candidate for the RCSI Honorary Doctoral Award, Dr. Patricia Scanlon, Director of Tumaini Al-Maisha Pediatric Oncology Program in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Interim Director of Global Health at Children's Health Ireland. Dr. Scanlon received her medical degree from University College Dublin in 1997 and subsequently completed her Pediatric Specialist Registrar training in Ireland in 2007, developing her interest in pediatric oncology. In 2006, Dr. Scanlon first travelled to the Children's Cancer Centre at Ocean Road Cancer Institute in Tanzania as part of her master's programme, studying the outcomes and long-term survival rates of children attending the centre. Dr. Scanlon returned to Tanzania on her training completion in 2007 and has ever since been leading the transformation of cancer care for children there. Dr. Scanlon's achievements have been truly exceptional. Against a background of very poor facilities, limited or no access to chemotherapeutic drugs, diagnostic tests, and blood transfusion, Dr. Scanlon undertook a long-term project to improve cancer care for the children of Tanzania. Her work has significantly improved cancer survival rates for children in Tanzania. In the relatively short time of only 15 years since graduation, Dr. Scanlon has succeeded in supervising the building of Upendo Children's Oncology Ward and Ujasiri House, which accommodates children and their families who are receiving cancer treatment. Both are located at Muhimbili National University Hospital. She has facilitated the official twinning of the Department of Pediatrics at Muhimbili National Hospital with Crumlin Children's Hospital, now called Children's Hospital Ireland at Crumlin, and they provide technical and clinical support to the Children's Cancer Programme in Dar es Salaam. She has established 3 charities, Tumaini Al-Maisha in Tanzania and Their Lives Matter in Ireland and in the UK, with the united aim, and I quote, to reach every child in Tanzania who develops cancer, to treat them with high-quality cancer treatment free of charge with the hope for a continued and healthy life. Recognizing the importance of local contribution for self-sustaining improvement, she has organized funding and overseen the building of a new pediatric and neonatal intensive care unit for Muhimbili National Hospital and academic affiliation with the Cancer Centre from Muhimbili University in Dar es Salaam. A major advance in recent years has been our introduction of a master's degree program in pediatric hem-oncology, oncology, and a 10-week pediatric oncology nursing certificate course, providing a locally sustainable cancer service. Given the vast size of Tanzania and the poor transport infrastructure, it is impossible for most children in remote areas to access care in the capital city, and so Dr. Scanlon is developing the National Children's Cancer Network and supervising the oncology treatment of children at 11 national sites. She has created an open-source pediatric oncology electronic medical record that will be rolled out across Tanzania, replacing paper files. In addition, she has created a fully automated system of prescribing chemotherapy across a range of common protocols. It's the first of its kind to be used in Africa, and she is developing a web-based app version. Dr. Scanlon has encountered and overcome countless obstacles, including herself surviving breast cancer twice. Without her singular vision and leadership skills, her energy, her integrity and determination, the transformation of child cancer service in Tanzania would not have been achieved. In addition to her work in Tanzania, Dr. Scanlon is currently assisting the movement of sick Ukrainian children from Kyiv to Dublin. Dr. Scanlon, Trish, we are delighted to welcome you here today. We are very proud that you, an innovative international healthcare leader and a most worthy candidate, have joined our special graduation ceremony to accept the highest academic award of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, the Honorary Doctorate in Science. I now call on the President of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland to make the award.
By virtue of my office as President, it gives me great pleasure to award you with the Honorary Doctorate of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Welcome.
It is my singular pleasure to now invite Dr. Scanlan to address the RCSI Class of 22, my colleagues and guests.
Distinguished guests, everybody here, first of all, I'd just like to thank the RCSI for this overwhelming honour. I'm becoming more and more overwhelmed as the day goes by. I've given a lot of talks in my days, but this is by far the most daunting, how to inspire a room in 10 minutes, but I'll give it a shot. So first of all, to all the graduates, congratulations. You've all worked really hard to get here, and you've all lived through the most difficult of times to do so. So, doctors, every one of you, congratulations. Today is about you, so please do pause and take a bow and take in what it is you've just achieved. I'm not sure I've met anyone in this room, mostly I would say due to COVID and the restrictions to travel, but since I have been in Tanzania, which is over 15 years, I have met countless Irish-trained medical students. And I have to say, I have been blown away by all you all achieve. Every last one of the people who have come and worked alongside me on the ward have done extraordinary things already in your young careers. You have written papers, you have started companies and have second careers, you have traveled the world, you have really done so much that I often think, what are you going to do in your 30s? If this doesn't describe you, don't worry, it didn't describe me either as a medical student. I was one of those just enough students. I did enough to get through, and I was having an almighty amount of fun and making lifelong friends during my university days. So what I would like you to take from the fact that here I am, with my past medical degree, just having received the highest honor from one of the most prestigious universities in the world, I want you to understand that your journeys are just beginning. Every single person in this room, by definition, is a high achiever. And your next chapter is wide open and ready for you to write it. All of you, every last one of you, can achieve whatever it is you want to do. All you have to do is figure out what that is. One of my favorite authors would say, "Oh, the places you will go." I'm a pediatrician, so that's Dr. Seuss. But more important than any achievement that you might have is to make sure that you're having fun along the way. You have to enjoy the journey for those goals to be worthwhile. So in order to find out what it is that you will be most effective at and feel best at, and maybe some of you already know where you want to go and what specialization you want to have. But for those of you who don't, what I would say to you is try and be open, try new things. Do ask for advice in all sorts of places. But also listen to yourselves. Your inner voice will not let you down. And don't settle. And for those of you who think you know what you want to do, if that isn't, what you imagined it would be brave enough to change your mind. There is no problem with that. When I decided to take a break from the well-worn path of intern SHO, registrar SBR, to consultant, the overwhelming feeling that I got from senior consultants and people who I really admired and had worked for, and it was actually said directly to me, which was, "Aren't you terribly brave?" Well, I didn't really feel brave. I felt privileged. I always had the sense that it would be possible to straddle both worlds. And it may not be that any of you are interested in global health, and maybe some of you are, but what I would say is during your careers, every single one of you will encounter people who are less well off than you are. And in my lived experience, I will have to tell you that serving the poor always enriches you. And it can lead you to extraordinary places, maybe even here in the Conference Centre. So you just don't know where it will take you. So always try to give a hand up to those who need your help. So my journey, off I went just after my SHO years. I went to Ethiopia and then to Vietnam. But I did look back, and I think it's important not to be reckless. I came back and did my specialty training here in Ireland, which I think was wonderful and served me so well throughout my career so far. And then during a wonderful year where I did a master's in international health, I found the place where I fitted best. And that's what you all need to find. Mine was in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. I came across a ward that had so much need. We had a survival at the time of less than 10% for the children. But it was a place with so much hope and so much love. The staff there, small and all as they were totally committed. And so I kind of found myself in this extraordinary position where I felt, gosh, I actually have all the skills they need and that they've been crying out for. And so I stayed. I had no intention of staying more than a year or two, certainly not more than 15 years, but I've been listening to my inner voice, and it still feels like the right place to be. And that's what I wish for all of you, to find that place where you feel most fulfilled. And it really has been an incredible journey, and thank you so much for the kind introduction. We have done wonderful things, but it's been a huge team. People ask me sometimes how I fit into all of the successes, and I always say that I am, if you imagine a pearl, and the children and their survival, they are the pearl. And the oyster itself, that's the staff and the structure in the hospital that looks after them. And then there's the shell, which is all of the supporters, whether it's our donors or all the academic institutions that help us. But in order to create a pearl, you need an annoying grain of sand. That's me. So what have we achieved? So we've moved survival from less than 10% to approaching 60%. We've increased the number of children accessing our service from 120 to 735 last year, I think. We've expanded the care we can give, which was one condition with free chemotherapy to every condition now is free. The charity that I set up pays for the chemotherapy for every child in the country, no matter which site they present at. And as I say, our aim is to have more than 30 sites in the network so that no child has a journey of more than 4 hours, because that's the biggest challenge, is getting the children in early enough. So as I mentioned, I regularly give talks about the achievements of the service and the charity. But sometimes I feel actually I should do a different talk. I should list the achievements, but then I should tell you about all the things that went wrong and all the things we failed at, because I think that might be maybe more instructional and more inspirational. I don't have time to do that here, but I will tell you that every single program, every single new thing that we tried to do to build this national network began with step one, fail. And it's important for everyone in this room, as you start your journeys, to understand that failure is not something to be feared. It's a sort of a foe that you will come to know. And you've just got to overcome these failures and realize it's a stepping stone to success. And don't just believe me. You can find a million different quotes about how failure leads to success, but one of my favorites came from the wonderful Michael Jordan, who most of you I think should know is the greatest basketball scorer in the NBA history. And here's his take on it. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again. That is why I succeed. So please do not be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, you're not going to try. What I would suggest is don't fail the same way each time, though. So today is a celebratory day and a joyful day. So I don't want to bring it down, but I would like to address if there's anyone here who is struggling at the moment, and maybe there isn't. Maybe everyone is full of joy, which I hope is the case. But I do think over the course of your lives, there will be times when you will struggle. And I just want to address those times, because I also have had some struggles in my life. In fact, 8 years ago, there was a good chance I would not be standing here. My triple-negative breast cancer, which had been diagnosed less than a year before, had returned. And the single tumor that I had the first time round had morphed into 6 tumors. I was told there was an 80% chance that I would not make it. And so I was sure it was curtains. And while I waited for that certainty to happen, I lived my life. I tried my best to squeeze every bit of joy out of every day. But there were dark times, mostly at 4 a.m. in the morning. But every day the sun came up. And you know what? 1 year went by, then 2, then at 5 I went, God, I might not die. I don't even have a pension. And so I am here 10 years after my primary diagnosis, standing before you all and celebrating with you. I feel so... I feel so lucky. And it was an interesting experience, the amount of things I learned. One of the most basic was the pointlessness of statistics when you are a patient. Someone has to be in the 20%. And so if you are struggling, and I know that it is trite to say this, but sometimes trite is true, hold on. Someone has to be in the 20%. Why not you? So that experience as a patient has been transformative, both privately and also professionally. It has made me a much, much better doctor. And I think that's what you should take from hard times, is try and put the lessons into your life and make sure that it enriches you in some way, even though it's hard. I learned that chemo really sucks. And so I have modified some of the protocols for the children to make it easier for them while still, curing them as much as we can. I learned the true value of nutrition. I'm now a vegan. And we've developed a completely unique, locally sourced whole foods and nutritional program for the children, which I think will have a lasting effect on them. I know firsthand how best to manage some horrible side effects. Who knew that nausea was worse than vomiting? Possibly we should know that. And one of the most important lessons as a doctor, and it's something I want you all to remember, is that bad news is better than no news. There's a peace that comes with certainty. Explain clearly and in a timely manner any bad news that a patient needs to hear, because it's a kindness. Do not be afraid of these conversations. The last lesson I want to share from my life so far is the value of family and the value of friendship. Like most of you, most of my lovely, lovely family are here today, and I'm so delighted that they are. I'm sure you are too. And what I would say to you is embrace them. Keep them close and share all your experiences with them. They will hold you tight and hold you up when you are struggling, and they will so proudly celebrate every success you have. And speaking from experience, it is way more fun to have good company along this journey. So to the mums and the dads and every single special guest here, I hope the graduates don't mind me talking on their behalf. We appreciate you, we thank you, we love you, and we are so happy that you are here today. So, in summary, do extraordinary things if you want to. Don't if you don't. But always be brave. Always be kind. And remember, please, to search for the fun in things. My own personal motto in life is, as Jack London would say, I would rather be ashes than dust. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Scanlon. It's been a great pleasure to welcome your parents, Michael and Marie, and your brother, and indeed your young nephew, Fionn, and friends to RCSI today. I don't think a medical graduate, even a slightly older one, could get a better lesson in humility, persistence, resilience, and growth through adversity. We're grateful for your generosity in sharing your story. It now gives me great pleasure to invite the Head of School of Medicine, Professor Arnold Hill, to come forward to announce the prize winners.
Thank you, Professor Kelly. I would like to call out there are 10 prizes, and I'd like our President to present them, and if the worthy winners can come from this side of the stage. The first award is the Desmond Murray Council Award, and it's awarded to the student who, within the last 2 years, has obtained honours in the final medicine and surgery and obstetrics and gynecology, and first-class honours in these subjects. And the prize goes to Maria Mahfouz. The next prize is the Jim Mahan Medal in Medicine, and this is awarded to the student who attends Kilkenny and gets the highest mark in medicine and surgery, and the award goes to Therese Marion Lynn. The next prize is the Fitzsimons Award in Surgery, who goes to the student who shows the most proficiency in surgery in an oral examination, and also on this occasion caused me to run out of questions. And that goes to Stevie Barry. Next is the Leonard Abrahamson Award, which is awarded to the student who obtains the highest mark in medicine in an oral examination, and it goes to Harriet Jude Leahy. Next is the McLean Award in Surgery, and this is awarded to a student who achieved the highest mark in the final surgery written exam, and it goes to Muhammad Abdul Aziz Ali Al-Amji. Next is the Professor Edward Guinea Award in Pediatric Surgery. It's awarded to the top performing student in SC2 Surgery and SC1 Pediatrics, and it goes to Ali Ashraf. The Quinn Award in Ophthalmology is for the student who does best in their ophthalmology assessment, and it goes to Abdulaziz Abdul Hadi. The Reuben Harvey Award is awarded to a student who achieves the highest aggregate marks in final medicine and surgery and obstetrics and gynecology, and it goes to Stevie Barry. The Sir William Wheeler Memorial Award for Surgery is awarded to the top performing student in the final surgery long case, and it's Ali Ashraf. And the final award is the Osler Award, and it's awarded to a student who has demonstrated the most outstanding clinical skills and clinical acumen during the SC2 clinical rotation at Connolly Hospital, and it goes to Jackie Clifford. And that concludes the awards. Thank you very much.
It's now my great pleasure to invite Dr. Maria Mahfouz to come forward and deliver the student valedictory address on behalf of the class of 2022.
Good afternoon, everyone. President of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, President of the Royal College of Physicians of Ireland, Chancellor of the NUI, RCSI Vice Chancellor and Registrar, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, faculty, family, friends, and most importantly, my fellow graduates. It is my great pleasure and honor to be standing with you today in the first in-person commencement ceremony since the start of the pandemic. I still remember my first week at RCSI, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to take on medical school in Ireland. Little did we know that we'll be faced with the challenges of dealing with the pandemic right at the start of our clinical rotations and have to navigate taking our first long case exam virtually, as if medical school wasn't challenging enough on its own. But my friends and I always say, God gives you what you can handle, and we've handled it pretty well. We became as hybrid as it gets, where we continually adapted to a new normal, survived the Thursday morning palpitations in anticipation of who will be called up by Prof. Hill, and even learned about how many calories there are in breast milk. I'm thankful for the continual support RCSI has given us, being as adaptable as possible with each new incoming challenge we faced along the way, and allowing us to be the healthcare leaders for tomorrow. Thank you to our professors and tutors, who continually pushed and challenged us to ensure we become the best interns we could be. Their time, efforts, and yes, critique too, have all been so important in our journey through medical school. I'd like to thank our patients, from the first ones we had in anatomy, who dedicated their bodies for our learning, and all the other patients we encountered along the way, who were very patient and understanding of our limited clinical exposure and became our best learning resource. We wouldn't be where we are today without their generosity and kindness. My peers and I are eager to serve and care for them for the best of our abilities. Thank you to our families who have supported us in every way they can, who are always there when we wanted some advice, and of course, their financial support. Thank you to my parents, who have always been a symbol of hard work and dedication to healthcare and always inspired me to be the best physicians I can be. My dad always tells me, if you can't do what you love what you do. And while I may not know exactly what life has in store for me, I know that I've loved the last 5 years at RCSI, and I'm so excited for what the future holds. Thank you to all our friends who have become our chosen families. When I look back at my time at RCSI, those are the ones that have made my time more special and more memorable. All the laughs, all the mini mental breakdowns we shared while trying to study together, our walks in St. Stephen's Green Park, impromptu ice cream dates in the freezing cold have become the best support system anyone could have asked for. Thank you to all my classmates who have always made me feel at home. The question, where are you from, isn't always the easiest for me to answer with my Egyptian-Canadian background while being in Ireland, but I've always felt at home at RCSI. I couldn't be prouder to be graduating alongside all the hardworking, resilient, and impressive doctors that I get to call my classmates. I'd like to leave you all with something that has kept me going for the past 5 years. When faced with challenging moments that test our strength and resilience, always remember, you are never dealt more than you can handle. Have trust and faith in yourself and your abilities, taking it one day at a time, and you will go far. Congratulations, doctors.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahfouz. Well spoken. It now gives me enormous pleasure to invite the President of RCSI, Professor Ronan O'Connell, to address us.
President, Royal College of Physicians of Ireland, Registrar, NUI, Vice President, members of Council, Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Deans, heads of school, academic staff, friends and relations, but most importantly, the 2022 graduates of RCSI Medicine, University of Medicine and Medical Science. This is a great day, one you have been waiting for since you entered medical school So congratulations. It's a day all the more special as for the last 2 years all ceremonies have been virtual. As president, I have become accustomed to video cameras and reading from an autocue. And no matter how well produced, and they were well produced, they were no substitute for the joy and the celebration and the energy and the vitality and the hope and the ambition that we can feel in this room today. So well done. As a class, you have been exemplary. You've been exemplary in your behavior. You've displayed adaptability, resilience, altruism that you should be very proud of. These traits will stand to you in time. Indeed, in time, you may look back and wonder, gosh, how did I do it to get through such a difficult period? The academic, clinical, and administrative staff who supported you deserve great credit, for they too proved adaptable and resilient. But more importantly, and in the true spirit of RCSI, they went that extra mile on your behalf. And perhaps you might show your appreciation and join me in a round of applause. The apex of Maslow's famous hierarchy of need is self-actualization, which translated means complete realization of one's potential by pursuit of inner talent, creativity, fulfillment. At the graduation dinner last Thursday, I felt myself immersed in talent, creativity, and a desire for actualization. But actualization does not mean gratification. There are many difficulties with healthcare delivery, and faraway hills seem greener. And yes, there has never been a more difficult or a more challenging time to enter the healthcare workforce. COVID restrictions may have eased, but the new normal in healthcare is different. You will practice in the legacy of the pandemic. Societal values, even political ideologies, will change. However, your commitment to the welfare of your patient cannot. And you will have witnessed quiet heroism among so many healthcare workers, not just nurses and doctors, I mean all healthcare staff. Many things will be required of you, but I think one attribute will serve you better than most: respect. Get this right, and I believe all other domains of professional life will fall into place. Respect your patient. He or she expects that you will put their interests, their safety, even their survival above all else. Respect your healthcare colleagues. Kind words always bring reward. And respect yourself. Build resilience. Keep friends, mend fences, and don't burn out. It has been a real privilege to confer an honorary doctorate today on Trish Scanlan, who reminded me that she started out as my intern a few weeks ago. Her citation only captures the surface of what you have achieved, and you got that from her lecture. Her inner strength, resilience, and respect for those she cares for is an inspiration to all of us, and truly an example of what self-actualization really means. Use your talents, you have many. Use your education, you have the best. Use your ambition, because you have it in spades. Use your energy, because you've got much more than I have. And use your vision. I was also delighted to confer a Doctorate of Medicine by virtue of public work on two really very, very dedicated Irish graduates, Peter Conlon and Brendan Moran. And what you don't really appreciate is the amount of work that these individuals have done over the years in terms of improving patient care. Peter from Beaumont, his lifetime's work has been in renal disease and transplantation. I know more about Brendan Moran because he's a surgeon, a colorectal surgeon like I am. Also an honorary fellow of RCSI, almost a unique distinction amongst Irish graduates. On this occasion, neither received a citation. I'm better placed to speak about Brendan because he and his colleague Bill Heald, working out of a district general hospital in Basingstoke, UK, have led the world in the surgical treatment of rectal cancer, and more recently in the treatment of peritoneal metastases, and in particular surgery for pseudomyxoma peritonei, a universally fatal condition unless treated by radical surgery and intraperitoneal chemotherapy. And so Peter Conlon and Brendan Moran and Trish Scanlan are examples to us all. What you can do with your energy, your vision, your education, your ambition, your willingness to fail, but quite rightly, don't fail the same way twice. Remember today. Remember the examples that you've heard of. So on this wonderful occasion, my message is Carpe Diem. Seize the day. Remember today. Remember your family, the efforts they've made to make sure you have had the best of everything and the best of education. Remember your friends. The people around you now will be your friends for life. And remember the responsibilities that now fall to you as graduates of NUI and RCSI. Keep safe. Keep in contact. I wish you self-actualization, fulfillment, and happiness in your chosen careers. Thank you.
Thank you, President. That concludes the RCSI degree conferring ceremonies, presentation of awards. Sincere congratulations to all of you. To mark a close to the conferring ceremony, I would like to invite you, our graduates, to stand yet again, to turn around to face the audience and your supporters, and I invite you in joining me in giving a round of applause to your family, friends, academics and supporters who've aided you to get this far. And finally, following the Outward Procession, we would like to invite all our guests to make your way to the Conferring Reception, which will take place outside the auditorium and in the forum as indicated in your conferring booklets. We'd ask our graduates to remain in your seats and places to await a group photograph, and following this you can join your family and friends at the reception. I now ask you to please be upstanding for the Outward Procession. Once again, sincere congratulations.